Hello everybody and welcome to this unboxing and review of what is arguably the worst Optimus Prime figure in existence, that being none other than, of course, the Transformers Age of Extinction First Edition Optimus Prime, a figure which was actually supposed to kickstart the generation wave of AOE figures, and my goodness was this just a taste of what monstrosities Age of Extinction toys had in store for us. Honestly, this guy is just the worst live action movie Prime that I have in my collection. He's so bad that after actually receiving him I did package him back in his box and threw him up in the attic, and that's pretty much where he's been for the last 7 or 6 years. And when we do actually get round to the 10th anniversary of Age of Extinction video reviews, I think there will be approximately 3 figures that I have good things to say about, as the line was just so bad. And to make matters worse, here in the UK the entire generation line was in fact made a Toys R Us exclusive, and Toys R Us Transformers distribution here in England as it was atrocious, so you can imagine that we pretty much only managed to actually get the first wave of figures. And also, Age of Extinction had the biggest hype surrounding it. I remember when the first Super Bowl trailer hit and it just absolutely blew my mind and many other fans and collectors alike. You had Grimlock, you had Strafe, the Dinobots were finally going to make their live action movie appearance. Michael Bay was completely redesigning Optimus Prime Bumblebee and was introducing a slew of new human and Cybertronian characters, and what a massive flop it turned out to be. But nevertheless, taking a look here at the box art, one of the only redeeming aspects of this line in general, you can see that we have a fantastic image here of the Knight version of Optimus. Of course, this is in fact the first edition Optimus Prime. As we spin around here to the back, we've got some product shots of this monstrosity with this enormous backpack, as well as his really cool, rather awesome looking Western Star alternate mode. The only other version of this particular Optimus that I have had out on display is in fact the Platinum Edition box set Optimus Prime, which came with a metallic version of the Revenge of the Fallen Sideswipe, as well as a slightly modified version of MP10's trailer, of course, to actually fit onto the trailer hitch here of the first edition Prime. And this too was completely decked out in an amazing looking chrome, and unlike the first edition Prime, this particular rendition did have chrome hubcaps, as well as of course chrome smokestacks. Although the actual colorization to the flames were a little more stylized, I do still regard this to be the superior out of the two figures. So maybe I'll take a look at this when we do eventually get round to the 10th anniversary of Age of Extinction. And I picked that figure up primarily for his vehicle mode, so I'm certainly looking forward to actually revisiting how the first production run did turn out. Of course, you could in fact actually open it here, which was held on via some Velcro, and you can see you've got the Transformers logo there, which just looked astonishing. Honestly, the hype was enormous for this film, and there you had Optimus Prime with the shield and of course the sword. So without further ado, let's crack Prime open and see what awaits us inside. I'm actually quite anxious to revisit this figure after so many years, as mentioned, that Platinum Edition Prime has stayed in vehicle mode for pretty much the past 5 years, so who knows what bad memories this figure will in fact resurface for me. So of course we'll just untap all of this, and with a bit of luck the figure should just slide out. And there we have the first edition Age of Extinction Optimus Prime. And of course we did actually get the instructions, which were too quite a nice change from what we've seen from Dark of the Moon. I believe everything was in fact colorized, although they did show the steps reversed. I remember getting like Hound or Galvatron or even the Evasion mode Optimus, and they actually showed the transformation from vehicle mode into robot mode, even though the figure actually come packaged in robot mode, and of course you'd have to transform it into vehicle mode. But nevertheless, I'll crack Optimus Prime out of some of these twisty ties, and then we'll take a closer look at the details. And so here we have the Age of Extinction First Edition Optimus Prime opened up, and I'll be honest, upon getting this out of the packaging for the first time in many years and actually revisiting this particular robot mode, I began to think that perhaps I was too harsh on this figure, especially to call it the worst Optimus Prime in existence. But then I actually began to articulate some of the joints, try and get him into some poses, and oh my goodness, this guy is just absolutely atrocious. How Hasbro thought it would be a good idea to actually use this Optimus Prime to kick off the Generation AOE toy line, I have no idea at all, as I am so confident in saying that this is the worst Optimus Prime, especially for the live action movies, especially considering that before this we had gotten the legendary Revenge of the Fallen leader class Optimus, which even to this date I still regard as being one of the best mainline figures in existence. We also got the really awesome Voyager class Hunt for the Decepticons Battle Blades Prime, which is one of the best Voyagers too. So to get this, honestly, it was just an insult to fans and collectors. But nevertheless, we'll take a look here. Of course, we we got the Sentinel shield, which had a name which was actually more interesting than its actual function. You can see that we do have this almost orange energy effect surrounding the silver brace, which of course in the movie the shield would actually expand. As this figure was based on very early concept art, we never actually saw this realised on the silver screen, and to be quite honest, I think this here would have looked a lot cooler when compared to the actual shield that we got in the film, as we had no energy effect which resembled this. But this is just a complete translucent piece of orange plastic which has got some silver slapped on the front. Of course, we do also have the Sword of Judgment, which too was really cast in a very peculiar colour scheme. I have no idea as to why Hasbro did opt to go with this almost pea colour here for yellow. It looks awful, and we just had some silver slapped on here to pick out some of the sharper details of the sculpt. And then we take a look at Optimus Prime himself. Now, from the front perspective, he does actually look quite cool. I won't deny that. The figure looks awesome. Of course, we've got the metallic chrome, which has got a mix of silver, blue, and red, which looks fantastic. And I believe this was, in fact, the first time in many years that we had actually seen chrome on a mass-produced Transformers toy, although Hasbro just overused it. I remember seeing it on the Age of Extinction Leader Grimlock. I think the actual regular retail version of Leader Prime also had the chrome. We also had all of those Platinum Edition figures, which was just loaded with chrome. Hasbro must have got chrome on the cheap that year, but I'm so glad to see that after 2014 was done, that appeared to be a thing of the past. But then as we turn our attention here to the back, oh my goodness. Basically, I would say 85% of the vehicle mode here is on his back, and then the remaining 15% is of course distributed on the legs. None of the core robot actually makes up any part of the vehicle mode, which I guess in a sense is an actual issue with the design, as the robot modes for Age of Extinction, especially Optimus Prime, were incredibly clean and basically had no vehicle mode kibble on them at all. But I'm so certain they could have done something a little better than what we got here with this figure. You can see that as far as the detail is concerned, the head sculpt does look really nice. Now, when comparing this to the Platinum Edition version, which had the mouth plate, this is the more iconic Michael Bay Optimus Prime mouth design, and I will say that the detail looks really well done. The head sculpt is probably one of the only redeeming aspects about this particular figure. I really love the silver paint that we got there. The eyes, the nose, the mouth, all of it does look really well done. The torso too has been detailed and of course chromed out really well too. It definitely does pop on the shelf and was very different when compared to some of the colour schemes that we had gotten for Dark of the Moon. You can also see here the arms all look really nice. We've got a nice grey gunmetal used there for the biceps and the forearms, with a very nice red paint applied here. And then as we turn our attention to the thighs, we've got that mix of blue and silver. And I think here from the front, the legs look awesome. But as mentioned, as you turn here to the back, the figure just looks absolutely atrocious. So much vehicle mode kibble. And what actually made it even worse was that the way they had actually designed the torso, it sat lower than the smokestacks, meaning that these looked ridiculously long. From some angles you could get away with it, and if you did actually mistransform him to rise this up a little bit, you can see that it does look a little better. But then of course we have this huge gap here where the lower section of the torso is. As far as articulation is concerned, Optimus does have a swivel joint here at the head, soft ratchet joints at the actual shoulder, as well as a ratchet joint which can hinge out to the side, which is a lot tighter than the forward range of motion. We also do get a bicep rotation ratchet joint here at the elbow, which can bend well past 90 due to transformation. No waist rotation, although the legs can kick forwards that far, as well as back to that far before it is very restricted by the back kibble. We get a rotation here just below the thigh, as well as a 90-degree bend there on a ratchet joint. And then finally the foot, for whatever reason, is on a ball joint, despite it pretty much being completely obstructed here by the excess vehicle mode kibble. So definitely not the best Optimus Prime by any stretch of the imagination. As mentioned, I have no doubt in saying that this is the worst live-action movie Prime that we have ever gotten. Is it the worst Optimus Prime in general across all of the lines? I'm not entirely sure. A few do come to mind, but as far as live action is concerned, this guy is by far the worst. Now, turning to transformation, this is something which I haven't actually performed in many years, so please do excuse me if I do present some mistakes. But one of the running themes for Age of Extinction was that the line was incredibly simplistic, so I'm almost certain I won't have any issues with this at all. So you were just supposed to fold up here at the elbows, collapse these shoulders in, bring this entire section here forwards, bring these sections here to the back. We can then straighten the head out and lift this front skirt piece forwards. We can then turn our attention here to the back, disengage this region, flop that there to the top. You'll then want to straighten these sections here out and just fold them off to the side. And already you can see just how much vehicle mode kibble was in fact hanging off Prime's back. We then want to take these sections, ratchet them forwards, and repeat the same process. Bring these sections down. And then here with the feet, this tab was in fact designed to groove into a slot, so just snap that into place, and of course repeat the same process, slide that up. We can then rotate this out, bring this entire region here forwards, and then just snap all of this there into place, and repeat the exact same process. Bring this forward, snap that into place, clip that in there, and then it's just a matter of bringing these two halves together, snapping them in securely, and then I believe this region is just supposed to sit like this. It doesn't really have any place to tab into, and then you can see here that this tab will peg into this slot, and then this tab will in fact peg into this slot. So perhaps we'll ratchet this down one click just so that we can align this up appropriately. Ensure that the torso does stay tabbed in, and repeat the same process here for the opposite side. Snap that into place, and of course here on this side, I think you really have to give this a good push as well, otherwise it will just not align up appropriately. And then we can just bring this entire section forwards, snap that into place, snap that there into place, and then just bring this section up and over. And there you have the first edition Optimus Prime fully transformed up into his rather awesome looking Western Star vehicle mode, and this is by far the best mode out of the two, and quite honestly is the major redeeming aspect of this figure. It looks fantastic. I can really not fault this at all. They have done such a fantastic job. Of course, there may be some proportion issues when compared to the real life Western Star vehicle mode. I do believe that this section is a little too squat when in comparison to the Age of Extinction leader class mass produced figure, which was a little longer in terms of design. This was actually quite significantly bigger than that figure, and of course when we do get round to the 10-year anniversary look back videos, I shall of course cover that original leader figure. But as far as the vehicle was concerned, it looked awesome. We still had the classic Michael Bay Optimus Prime flame detailing, which never looked better in my opinion, seeing as they had now used chrome. We've got a complete chrome grille, which looks awesome. I do actually quite like the blue tint that we get here for the front windscreen, as well as the silver here for the actual top visor. Unfortunately, no chrome here on the smokestacks. Now this was something that they did fix on that Platinum Edition version, which I showcased earlier on in the review, but considering this was the first edition Prime, you would have thought they would have completely decked this out with as many paint apps as they could have. We've also got some nice chrome here for the Western Star logo, and then of course all of the hubcaps did in fact have Autobot insignias, although were just cast out of gunmetal grey. But something which was nice to see is that the wheels were in fact rubber, which was super cool. So a really nice looking truck mode, and is no doubt how this particular version of Optimus shall be displayed upon my shelf. But definitely robot mode is absolutely awful. As far as weapon storage is concerned, you can just take the sword here and I believe just snap this here into the bottom, and then the same can also be said here for the shield. This just pegs here into the top of the trailer hitch, although it is a little difficult to actually do, so I guess it's supposed to look something like that. But that is the first edition Age of Extinction Optimus Prime. Is this the worst Optimus Prime we have ever gotten? Please feel free to let me know down in the comment section below if you agree. I personally do regard it as definitely being the worst Optimus, at least for the movieverse. Whether or not that bleeds into other lines, such as the Titans Return line, Power of the Primes, etc., who knows? I would love to know what your guys' thoughts are and whether or not you actually like this figure. It's definitely not 100% awful, but 99% I would say is terrible. The only good thing, of course, is that vehicle mode. The robot mode looks disgusting. It has that huge awful backpack, and even the accessories, I don't like the choice of yellow plastic that they decided to go with, as it definitely looks as if though Optimus is leaking lubricant all over his shield and sword in order to power them up. I really hope that you enjoyed this throwback review of the first edition Optimus Prime. It was rather spontaneous. I just really wanted to showcase you guys what I personally regarded to be the worst Prime. Of course, with the worst, we have to cover the best, so please be sure to hit that subscribe button, as the Optimus Prime, which I regard as being the best, shall be making his appearance on the channel very shortly, and I will in fact also have an Optimus Prime collection video coming out rather shortly as well. I thank you all for watching, and until my next review, I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.